I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. We're out at H&H Shooting Sports right off of Meridian and I-40 today to celebrate the start of college football season. We have our college football preview section. This will be out in Sunday's paper, but if you come out today, we'll have copies of this here at H&H, and they'll be here as long as they're available. But Barry, people are grabbing these up. They want to get the college football season started.
Well, don't we all?
Yeah.
It's been a long, hot summer with some good news and some bad news in the sports world, so we're ready to get back to the games, and that's what college football provides.
By the way, H&H Shooting Sports, lots of needs they can fill for you. Dove season starts on September 1st. Archery deer season on October 1st. They can help you out with everything you might need for either of those seasons and anything else to follow. But let's talk a little college football, Barry. Our preview section is That's Entertainment. Justify That's Entertainment. Why this year for That's Entertainment?
Well, I mean, just about any year college football is entertaining, and everybody's looking forward to it. But this year in particular, because down in Norman, for instance, the new stadium, the stadium renovations, Memorial Stadium being bowled in, a lot of fan amenities, a lot of new additions to a venerable old stadium that makes the fan experience so much better. Plus, they've got quite the entertaining team. Baker Mayfield, one of the nation's most entertaining players. So the truth of the matter is college football has been entertaining Oklahomans for literally 100 years.
Right.
I mean, going back to the early days of the universities, college football was central to the campus culture, and it's just grown from there until now. It's a massive machine in both Norman and Stillwater, with fans and alums and students all looking forward and building a good chunk of their social lives around football games.
Yeah, you talk about Norman and all the things going on at OU, and a lot of the similar things can be said about OSU. Here's a team that has now sort of found itself as a perennial contender in the Big 12, a team that a lot of people think could make a run at a Big 12 title this year. Obviously, a lot of games that are going to be tough on the road, sort of a reverse of last year, but, a lot of entertainment there. And, you mentioned the social aspect of it. We've got a great story in our section about the tailgating scene and how much it's exploded at OSU games, and how it wasn't that long ago that tailgating in Stillwater was actually popping down the tailgate of your truck before the game, having a few drinks, maybe a sandwich, and going on in. Now it's a big deal. It's a big scene, so the entertainment value is wild in both places. But let's talk about on the field for just a second, Barry. Let's talk about OU. From your perspective, who is most entertaining in your mind? Who are you most wanting to be entertained by this year?
Well, I mean, anytime they snap the ball to Baker Mayfield, it's fun. We didn't know what he was going to be this time last year. It was this week last year when Bob Stoops named him the starter. We didn't even know if Baker Mayfield would beat out Trevor Knight. Looking back, that seems fairly quaint. Second game of the year last year, Oklahoma played Akron in the opener. Then they go to Tennessee, and he plays Pac-Man. He's just running around the field, can't get tackled, keeps the Sooners alive, makes a bunch of plays in the fourth quarter. Sooners win in overtime, and it really projected Oklahoma into a great season. Mm-hmm. So you wrote about Baker's entertainment status. His clearly is one of the most entertaining and favorite players in OU football history. Entertainment is not just getting stuff done. I mean, it's great to win. It's great to passes completed, yardage to be made. But when a quarterback is able to do so many different things in such theatrical ways, it really raises the entertainment level, and that's what Baker Mayfield does.
Yeah, I think that's important to remember. Is we look at entertaining players, and I think you can say there are a lot of great players in our state, and there are a lot of great players in college football. But for sheer entertainment, for not being able to take your eyes off a guy, I'm not sure you can find anybody else in college football more entertaining than Baker Mayfield right now. I know Deshaun Watson is electric, the Clemson quarterback. Oklahoma fans obviously aware of him. Christian McCaffrey, the do-everything player out at Stanford. I mean, I think those are the type of guys that are really entertaining as well. But I think there's something different about Mayfield. He just has that you never quite know what's going to happen. And he told me that he really looked up to a guy like Brett Favre growing up. And when you watch him play, there are sort of that styles of game is very similar in terms of getting out and running and wanting wanting to pass out of that run. That makes him really dangerous in ways that a lot of other quarterbacks aren't. A lot of times if they scramble, it's just to get away from guys and really try to make something out of nothing. He's looking to still pass the ball when he scrambles, which I think is kind of rare even amongst quarterbacks. So when you look at all-time entertaining players in OU history, I mean, Mayfield, we ranked him number 2, Barry, and I don't think you could say he's more entertaining than Joe Washington, but he still has 2 years to play, so maybe by the end we are talking about that.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't think he could pass little Joe, especially people of my age who remember all the things that Joe Washington did and how he did them, but you made a great point. He's only played 13 games for Oklahoma, and 12 and a half, really, if you count the second half of TCU. He got knocked out, so he doesn't have a long history. He's got a lot of football in front of him. Oklahoma got the big blessing of the Big 12 ruling that gave Baker Mayfield his 5th year of eligibility back. So lots of football still up there for Baker Mayfield. He's really risen in the OU pantheon of heroes in a short amount of time.
We're at H&H Shooting Sports out here off of Meridian and I-40. Open on Monday through Saturday, 9 to 9, and Sunday it's 9 to 6. You can come out, get on one of their ranges, practice. You can buy all sorts of things. Remember that dove season opening September 1st and deer archery season opening on October 1st. Barry, let's talk about OSU for just a second before we bring on some special guests. Entertainment. I'll ask you the same question that I asked about OU. Who are you looking to be entertained by at OSU? I'm not sure we got anybody of Baker Mayfield's style, but who entertained you at OSU?
You know who I like to watch at Oklahoma State is James Washington, the junior wide receiver. And here's what I like about James Washington. He runs down the field, and he goes deep. And when Mason Rudolph throws the ball, launches one of those aerials with James Washington running a fly pattern, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, the expectation in the air when that ball is in flight, it just sort of captivates the stadium. And we saw James Washington, particularly down in Waco, 2014. Mason Rudolph makes his debut as the starter. He hits James Washington with a couple of big throws, and they've been a great tandem ever since. So I really, when James Washington takes off down the field, that's a guy I can't take my eye off of.
Yeah, I have to say James Washington is probably the guy I would agree with you there. But I think another guy to keep an eye on this year is Jalen McCleskey. He was the punt returner a year ago, and we sort of nicknamed him the rag doll amongst the press corps. That guy would take hits. He would return kicks and punts that you would think, what's he doing? He would just get knocked around out there and just bounced up and kept going. Well, now he's a guy that's really going to step in and help fill a role in the receiver corps, especially with Marcel Aitman out. So I'm curious to see what he does in a more expanded role at wide receiver, because we've seen what he can do with that return game. We saw him return a big one at Texas Tech. It was huge in the momentum of that game. So we know he can make plays. I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does in that passing game. But Barry, I think there's also, when you talk about entertainment, I'm not sure anybody elevates to those guys' level, but defensively, there's some players on this Cowboy squad that, really not being talked about, but are going to be pretty central to what they do as well.
Well, it's not flashy, it's not sexy, it's not what you'd call entertaining. But Oklahoma State's really good in the defensive interior. They've got 4 or 5 defensive tackles they really like, and that's a position of historical weakness for OSU. They've often lacked quality players there. Now they're really deep there. Not going to make any highlight films, not going to show up on a bunch of shows. But let me tell you, if you can control the defensive interior, you've taken a major step toward victory in any football game. So if you want to watch football unconventionally this year, take a few plays, don't follow the ball, watch that defensive interior of Oklahoma State.
You know what's entertaining about that is potentially winning games. I think Oklahoma State likes what they might be able to do with that defense and some of those guys that return. I mentioned out here at H&H Shooting Sports that you can do all sorts of things, but one of the things you can do that I haven't mentioned yet is have a great meal. They've got their own cafe right here, and we're going to be joined now by some special guests. Dave Cathy, who's the food writer at the Oklahoman, and Yvonne Cagle, who's cooking it all up. They're going to tell us a little bit about what they offer here at H&H, but also a little bit about tailgating.
Yes. Come on in, Yvonne. Barry, get out of here. I don't need your kind here. Now you can sit right there and look pretty like you always do so well. Because I know when the subject comes to food, what a lot of people don't realize is food might be slightly ahead of sports with Barry Trammell. This is actually true. So Yvonne, tell us a little bit about the cafe here.
Well, we've had it for about 9 years now. We have expanded 3 times. We just started out just to be a little coffee shop, and obviously we came in and did a lot better than what they had planned in the beginning. We do everything pretty much from scratch. We, probably 90% of our stuff we do. We have Angus beef that we use, certified Angus beef. We do our hamburgers. We roll them fresh. Yeah. We hand bread our own onion rings. We cut our own fries. Today is homemade chicken fried steak day, so we make that breaded.
Outstanding.
We make those. We do that from scratch. You can stand and watch us cook it. We make our potatoes from scratch. We make our gravy. Everything we do is from scratch. So we just bring in a crew of people that don't go around and get to eat food from homemade like it used to be.
You said you've had 3 expansions. You're obviously doing something right, because you don't expand unless you're doing something right.
Right.
So you've got that going for now. When do you open out here?
We open at 11 o'clock Monday through Thursday until 7, and then on Friday and Saturday we close at 6, and we're closed on Sundays.
So folks coming out here to shop, fire off some firearms,
Absolutely.
They can come over here and
go
get
to the
some
archery department. We've got an archery for kids and stuff to do, so we've got a lot here for families.
Very good. Well, looks to me like you're a Sooner fan.
Yes.
Football season's coming up. You obviously know a lot about food. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little about what you do to tailgate.
We would do hamburgers. Mm-hmm. We do hot dogs. A lot of times we'll do Polish sausage with sauerkraut, grilled onions, grilled bell peppers, tomatoes, spicy mustard, put it on a hot dog bun, and just let it kind of drip.
Well, anything that you can walk around and carry, right?
That's right.
All right. So
that's right.
Any fearless predictions for the Sooners this year?
Fearless. So let's see. I think we're going to do it this year. I have faith.
Well, you heard it here first, right? I mean, right here from the cafe where they do all the great stuff. I mean, that chicken fried steak, homemade, can't beat it. Barry, what'd you think?
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
He's been out here a few times too. So he's had a variety.
Well, one last thing here. If somebody's coming out here for the first time, what do they need to get?
They need to get the grilled onion burgers with bacon and cheese and jalapenos if you want that. Mm-hmm. Try if you want the onion rings and fries, you can get a half and half, and you can try both of them that way.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a great suggestion, a great prediction for me on that. You'll enjoy it. Promise you. Great job. Thanks, Yvonne.
Thank you very much.
Come back over here, Jenny.
Right.
And Jenny actually ate this week. She ate right here. It was great.
It was awesome. I can vouch for the chicken fried steak, no doubt about it. We're out here at H&H Shooting Sports off of I-40 and Meridian, and like we said, you can eat, you can shoot, you can do whatever you want to do out here. They're open from 9 to 9 Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6 on Sunday. Barry, before we get out of here, let's talk about the big picture predictions. One of the things that we do that people love in our preview section, which is That's Entertainment. If you didn't see it before, we've got some copies out here at H&H, and as long as they're available, people can come out and grab one before it hits your Sunday newspaper. But one of the things that I like best, and I think people like best, is to see staff predictions. What do we think is going to happen? Because people usually like to either agree with us or not agree with us and then remind us of what they didn't agree with. But let's talk nationally. We saw one of our state teams get into that Final Four college football playoff last year with Oklahoma making the semifinal. Who you got in the college football playoff this year?
I got 3 of the 4 teams that made it last year, Clemson, Alabama, and Oklahoma, and then I think Stanford gets in instead of a Big Ten team. Clemson, Alabama are loaded again. Mm-hmm. Clemson has the quarterback, which is a big difference. Alabama breaking in a new quarterback, but the Sooners have a great schedule. If they get through September, I think they're going to be in great shape to make the Final Four.
Yeah, I agree, and I have the same teams you do, except not Stanford. I got Michigan, which I may be buying into a little bit of the hype, or trying to get on the good side of our new assistant sports editor, Darnell Mayberry, who's a huge Wolverines fan. Just ask him, he'll tell you. But I think a Big Ten team is likely to get in. I think that it's a little top-heavy in the Big Ten, and Ohio State, I mean, we're going to see them right here in Oklahoma and with a non-conference game in September. Their non-conference schedule is going to be really difficult, and if they stumble, by the end of September, they could practically find themselves out of the running for that playoff spot. So I like Michigan. We saw them really make some big strides under Jim Harbaugh last year, but I think they've got a good chance to get in instead of Stanford. But there's no doubt Christian McCaffrey and what they're going to do out there in Palo Alto is going to be fun to watch. Let's do one more prediction. What about Heisman? Everybody likes to talk about the Heisman. Who do you think will win the Heisman this year?
I think Deshaun Watson's the clear leader right now. Just a wonderful player. You saw him in the national title game. The best player on the field in a game with Alabama. Running great, throwing great. If Clemson has a big year, I think Deshaun Watson's going to be very tough to beat.
Last year they only had 3 finalists that went to New York, and Baker Mayfield finished 4th, so he didn't get to go. I think Mayfield goes this year, but I think Watson, the ACC, again, we're talking about top-heavy. I think ACC is very top-heavy. Deshaun Watson's going to have, really a couple of times where he's going to have to make his candidacy, if you will. Florida State being prime among them. He's got to have a fantastic game against Florida State. You look at a guy like Leonard Fournette last year at LSU, who was everybody's front runner until he played Alabama, and I think he had like 39 yards rushing or something. But there are a ton of good quarterbacks. I think you might see, Christian McCaffrey probably gets into the finals, but don't be surprised to see a bunch of quarterbacks. Something you wrote about in this section, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks out there this year all around the country, not just Mayfield and Watson. We're talking about guys that are really everywhere that could be difference makers out there.
Well, and a guy to look at is September 17th when the Buckeyes come to Norman. J.T. Barrett from Wichita Falls, Texas, goes head-to-head with Baker Mayfield. 2 Heisman contenders on the same field in September in Oklahoma. So that's going to be a great night. But a guy like J.T. Barrett, if Ohio State does well, he's going to be in there. And, of course, you never know who's coming from outside the pack. Like we said, this time last year, Baker Mayfield was barely the starter. By October, he was a Heisman contender. So all kinds of guys can still get there. But quarterbacks clearly have the edge on coming from nowhere.
All right, remember, Sunday's the day for the college football preview section. That's entertainment. If you're a subscriber, it'll come to your door. If you're not, run out, buy one. You want to be sure to hold on to it. It's going to have every schedule, every Division I schedule is in there, so you want to hold on to that. Read about all sorts of different aspects of college football, the teams that are local, and also the national and Big 12 scene. And remember, we were here at H&H Shooting Sports today, just off of I-40 and Meridian, and they can fill all your needs for the upcoming hunting seasons. Dove season opening September 1st, and that archery deer season opening on October 1st. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.